Hello everybody! Today's video was supposed to be about something completely different, however a certain occurrence of incidents caused me to reassess the circumstance of my existence, because today's video was supposed to be about mixing and matching parts of hydraulic brakes between different manufacturers. However, I didn't get the parts I needed, so today's video is going to be me making you aware of the stream of consciousness about something completely different. So here's the story. I've been frequenting the parts of the internet that is usually inhabited by the special kind of people that are riding Campagnolo equipment, and from there I noticed that there have been some leaks about Campagnolo working on a 13-speed group set. Now this wouldn't be surprising, considering that Campagnolo was always one cog ahead of everyone and SRAM went 12-speed like 2 years ago. However, the interesting part is that Campagnolo is working on a one bi-specific 13-speed group set for gravel. Interesting part, Campagnolo is following a trend, one that is, kind of tangential to their core business. Nonetheless, Campagnolo is following a trend. The end of the world is nigh. The second part is that it's going to be one bi-specific with a narrow wide chainring on the front and 13-speed group set at the back. And if my hunch is correct, it is also a herald of things to come, and the things to come is that one by road is near. 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we're going to be, witnessing the emergence of a one bi-specific road bike, even in the pro peloton. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way from the start. Yes, it's 13 speed, yes, it's ridiculous, the chain is going to be a touch narrower. However, if frame manufacturers are going to play along, that with the current technology we can go all the way up to 15, maybe even 16 speed. Okay, that's out of the way. And yeah, it's going to wear down faster and all that bad things. That's not the point. The point is that the part of the lineup that Campagnolo is going to offer is a 9 to 36 cassette. 9 cog as the smallest one, 36 as the biggest one. That's just 27 teeth of spread, but a massive 400% in range. The entire thing is going to sit on a modified Campagnolo free hub that is going to be convertible to a standard free hub using a simple adapter, so it's a great feature. And two other options for cassettes are going to be 9 to 42 and 9 to 44, but those are for gravel people. They are irrelevant for this video at least. Point being is that this 9 to 36 coupled to a 42-ish chainring gives you more or less equivalent drivetrain with its 13 unique ratios to a 52 by 36 coupled to an 1130 cassette. You get the same 13-ish, I think, ratios on the double, and you get 13 ratios on a single. Moreover, most of those ratios are going to be concentrated on the high speed range, which is the relevant part for road riding. Now that sounds really tempting, so let me hype you a little bit more. The cassette 9 to 36 is going to weigh approximately 250 grams. It's not going to be much heavier than the current 11 to 32 cassettes, because it's more or less the same size, so it's going to weigh more or less the same amount. The record and super record versions, if they existed, would be even lighter than that. Moreover, since you are losing the big chainring, essentially, you are losing the shifter, you are losing the cable, if it exists, it's going to be even lighter than that. The cassette is going to be lighter, pretty light, the derailleur can be short cage, it's going to be light, and you're going to be using less chain. Overall, we can estimate weight savings at about 150-250 grams. Considering that we are now scratching the 6 kg range, that is pretty darn significant. Moreover, the frame builder gets an option to make the bottom bracket area even beefier than before, because you don't need to make accommodations for this massive chainring, you don't need to make accommodations for a front derailleur. So you can make, even stiffer bottom bracket, considering the bottom bracket is the flexier part of the bike because most of the power goes through there. That seems to be, kind of nice. Moreover, since you got only one chainring, the entire industry of custom chainrings is going to spring up from the ground, just like it did for the mountain bikes, and you get to customize your gearing using smaller chainrings, bigger chainrings, oval chainrings, colorful chainrings, and whatnot. The chain management on the entire thing is going to be much more secure, because on the front you're having a fairly big chainring, narrow wide, which is going to hold the chain pretty snugly. On the rear, this medium range cassette coupled to a short cage derailleur with a clutch is going to hold the chain on the rear pretty snugly, and the entire thing is operating essentially like a drivetrain on a downhill bike. And I don't need to tell you that drivetrains on downhill bikes, well, manage their chains pretty securely. And, well, on top of everything, the entire drivetrain is being operated, well, in a zombie mode, because you've got just one lever to be bothered by. So if it gets too hard, you shift to a lower gear. If it gets too soft, you are shifting to a higher gear, and everything is just simple and straightforward. Are you hyped yet? Well, then let's talk about the downsides. Because you see, we can kind of expect that there are going to be some. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Is it going to wear faster? Kind of, but not necessarily. You see, we can kind of expect that this wear is going to concentrate on the 9, 10 and 11 tooth cogs. However, you are not going to be using those cogs as often as you imagine, because unless you're a pro, and if you're a pro you're getting free stuff, so you go fast, that's not the point. If you're not a pro, then in order to get to those gears you're going to be using them fairly rarely, and even if you get to them you're going to be assisted by gravity. What does it mean? It means that you're going to be working with much lesser chain tension, practically speaking, so the wear on those little cogs is not going to be as extensive as you think. Moreover, realistically speaking, you're going to be spending most of your time on realistically sized cogs, so 15, 16 and so on in the middle of the cassette, considering that the drivetrain of the entire thing is going to be much more compact and is carrying essentially the same torque as before. Is going to wear faster, but proportionally speaking maybe 10-20% faster than before. Is it something to be worried about? I don't know, it's up to the user to decide. However, it's not going to be as dramatic as to, I don't know, weep about this. Moreover, this is a 1x, it is expected to be operated at high deflection angles, so cross-chained, but cross-chaining makes no sense on a 1x, but it's going to work on high deflection angles, so by its very nature it's going to wear a little bit faster. And from experience we kind of know that 1x on mountain bikes, well, it's wearing faster, but people aren't really crying about this, and I am fairly certain that engineering is going to catch up with this, and at certain point is going to be just as reliable as your 10 speed is now. And the other big thing is obviously efficiency, because, well, it's a common knowledge that smaller is less efficient than bigger, and that's essentially true to an extent. However, from the HPVA study when it comes to drivetrain efficiency, we know that it ranges from approximately 97 to 93% when it comes to derailleur gears, and I don't think this particular thing is going to be much different. However, from the HPVA study we know that the chain tension is increasing efficiency, and size is also increasing efficiency. Essentially they are working against each other, considering that this thing is more compact, it's going to operate at higher chain tension, which is going to increase or partially offset the efficiency loss from using smaller chain rings. What does that mean? Well, it means that your 9, 10, 11 tooth cogs may be a little bit less efficient than before. However, this is not going to be something that is very dramatic. I estimate it to be about 2-3 more watts lost than the equivalent gear on the traditional gears. Moreover, we need to understand that 9 tooth, 10 tooth, 11 tooth cogs are going to be used with the input power that is well above 400 watts or 300 watts, because you're going downhill or you are a pro and you are at the finish line. So losing 2 or 3 or 4 extra watts when your input is about 500 watts, 400 watts, well, you are losing energy obviously, and if you're racing that might be important, but it is, the magnitude of this effect is so minor that for an average rider or even a really well-off pro, it's probably not as significant as people imagine, considering that at the speed you're riding you're most likely bothered by aerodynamics anyway. And the last thing that is worth to talk about is Chordal Action, or as SRAM likes to call it in its marketing materials, the Polygon Effect. A detailed explanation of this phenomenon is in the description, but in the simplest terms, the chainring and the cog is not a circle, it is a polygon with the amount of size that is equal to the amount of teeth, and as the gear is being operated, this polygon is going to shake the chain with a certain frequency, and this causes the chain well to shake like that, and it's going to resonate with the other cock on the other end. And the point of this is that the smaller the chainring is, the higher is the amplitude or the amount of shakage of this chain. And with the chain rings and cocks in the neighborhood of 10, 11, 9, obviously 12 and so on, this effect is pretty significant, and it causes the rider on the bicycle especially to feel that it is a little bit crunchy and jarring and not really pleasant to ride. You can feel this on 11 tooth if you try, and on a 10 or even 9 tooth it is very apparent. And by the way, this is the physical phenomenon that is responsible for this really interesting sound when you're listening to your drivetrain up close. Point being that this effect is a cause of additional energy losses on the smallest cogs. However, they are not really significant, but they aren't really pleasant to use, and that's about it. SRAM, I think, even said that they didn't go for 9 tooth on this XX1 initially, even though they tried or even wanted to, because it wasn't pleasant to use. And there is one more thing to address: the Aqua Blue team. If you don't know what Aqua Blue team was, it was a pro cycling team that was racing in the UCI sanctioned races, and they were famously being the first ones to use the one-by specific bikes with one-by drivetrains in the pro peloton, and they failed fabulously. However, it was not a failure because of the one-by drivetrains, although I heard that there was some sort of a friction between SRAM and the team. However, the core reason why Aqua Blue team failed was because of failed management and the internal team politics, and the fact that they were using very early versions of the one-by or one-by cobbled from prototypes from SRAM probably didn't help. Point being, however, the what we're discussing now isn't really relevant because it's not an equivalent of what they were using, so yeah, I don't think it's really relevant. So what are the conclusions, at least according to me? I think this is going to play out very similarly to how disc brakes went on the roads on the road, which is there are going to be some early adopters, then someone will try to push this to the UCI. There's not going to be a problem with it because UCI isn't really bothered by your drivetrains, but disc brakes were kind of an issue. However, someone will try to push this on this peloton. Pros are going to complain, then they are going to get a stack of money and they are going to like it, and well, people who the latest and greatest and the best is targeted at accepted $400 cassettes on the mountain bikes, so I guess they are going to also accept more frequent chain and cassette changes on a road bike, especially considering that the benefits are there, well documented and kind of undeniable, and the only downside appears to be that it's going to feel a little bit more rougher and it's going to be a touch less efficient and a touch faster at wearing your drivetrain. Do I like it? I don't know. I'm kind of hyped because I like the simplicity of a one-by, and if I can get away with it without using a massive long cage, because I'm a fetishist of the short one, I would probably try this at least once. My initial experiments with one-by on the road were kind of, well, encouraging, and considering that 12 speed now can be had at a very low price, so yeah, I'm kind of cautiously interested. Anyhow, I think this is everything I have to say about this. Maybe I will touch upon this once this Ekar thing is going to get released. However, for now I thank you for your undivided attention, and I hope to see you in the next one, and of course I'm fairly certain that you shall like it and subscribe.